Have you ever read the story of the little red hen, where she's planning to bake and no one wants to help her, but then when she's all done, they all want to eat it? This story, The Little Red Fort by Brenda Maier, is a parallel story inspired by that one. In this story, Ruby wants to build a fort, and she asks for her brother's help, but they aren't interested in helping her. But at the end, when she's all finished, they think her fort looks like an awful lot of fun to play in. So before reading this story, you may want to go ahead and read 1 or 2 or 3 versions of The Little Red Hen. There are a lot of different versions out there of that one. And so that way your child will be familiar with that story and will be able to compare it with this one. And that's one of our after reading activities, is to make a Venn diagram comparing this story to the story of the Little Red Hen. And exactly what that Venn diagram looks like will be different depending on what version you read. Sometimes she makes a pizza and other times it's more traditional things. So your Venn diagram may look a little bit different than the one in our sample, the sample in our resources. During reading, there are a lot of different things you can stop and talk about with your child, and those are listed as ideas in the resources. But my favorite is on this page where it says her brother gave her a look that could melt popsicles. Can you imagine what kind of look could melt a popsicle? Can you make a face that you think might melt a popsicle? See if your child can make a face that might do that, and talk about, could a look really melt a popsicle? Or maybe that's just the author's fun way of telling us what that look probably felt like when he looked at Ruby that way. In addition to the Venn diagram after reading, you might want to have your child write the steps in order that Ruby did to build this fort. There were a lot of different steps that she went through. You can choose whether to have your child write those steps out themselves, or in our resources there is a page you can print that has the steps listed. Your child can cut those apart, put them in order, and glue them on another page. You can also have your child write their own steps for something that they know how to do. A how-to writing is a very important thing for kids to practice, to think about how to clearly communicate the steps for doing something without leaving any steps out. And it's a great time to practice transition words, having them include in their writing first, next, then, finally. And then you can talk about, are there any steps that were left out of this story? Is there something you think Ruby would have needed to do that maybe the author chose not to include? I can think of one example. Ruby never measures in this story. You certainly would have to measure before cutting your boards. So that's something important that they chose not to include. And you can talk about, why would the author have left that out? Do you think she forgot? Or maybe she just decided the story was getting a little bit long for her audience and she didn't include every detail. After this story, it would also be a lot of fun to build a fort. And you could do that by actually measuring and cutting boards and nailing them together, or the author has included some other simple, fun ideas at the end. So you could let your child choose one of those types of forts and build it and then play in it. And finally, you could have your child think of something that they would like to build. Imagine what it would be like and draw the plans. And you can get as detailed with this as you'd like, with actually having them draw measurements and research how to build something, and maybe you even build it. Or you can keep it simple and just let them imagine, draw what they come up with, and be done with it. So this is an adorable little story. I hope you enjoy it.